Laughter is a devilish wind, which deforms the lineaments of the face and makes men look like monkeys.
Welcome to Bond Delenda Est, a Latin language sermon presented to a small selection of extremely submissive and breedable twinks in a remote European abbey. I am Brother Devon. I'm a horrid little fucked up goblin creature. Nothing about my face looks right, and it's clear that I was put together incorrectly by an uncaring and cruel god. That's right, I'm English, but also I'm a librarian in the aforementioned remote abbey. Joining me, as ever, in charge of innovating new and increasingly fucked up haircuts, Brother Abby.
Hello, I am a remote abbey.
Just where did you come up with that new idea? Putting the bold spot there, I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, and like gluing various bits to the front and sides. Yeah, I just do whatever the fuck, you know?
Truly a master at her craft. Also with me, head down in the library, hard at work translating various texts from unintelligible and boring dead languages such as English, Greek, Latin, into the only language that matters, Arabic. Brother Alice.
Salam alaikum. Creeping Islamization coming to the Abbey.
And what's this? Slamming the doors open, storming into the hall, clearly having imbibed heavily from the heretical decoction of White Claw, and quite rudely pointing out the inaccuracies with both my outfit, my working definition of the Dark Ages, and everything that we've got going on here. It's historian, Dr. Eleanor Janega.
Hello. I can't improve on that. That's what am I supposed to do with this? You're starting too high, Brother Devon. what am I meant to go on here? It's too good. It's too good.
Thank you for coming with us to discuss.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
A pleasure. I'm trying to make, that Thanos glove, but with all of the Trash Future Extended Universe.
Yeah.
I just need hell of a way to die
glove.
Now. Which I don't think I'm going to get. So,
it's hard.
Yeah, that's
hard to pick one for that.
So hypothetically, if I wanted to buy a book right now...
I've been looking at my shelf right now and I'm thinking, shit, there's room for a book on that bad boy.
And I bet that what you're saying to yourself is you were hoping, obviously, to have a book about medieval history, but you're like, why aren't there any, graphics? Graphic design is my passion.
Right.
And so, luckily, into that void in your shelf, in your heart, you can put my new book, The Middle Ages, A Graphic History, out on Icon in the UK. Not yet in America and Australia, New Zealand. That's in September. But
what if
you've been working...
What if before reading it, I wanted to watch 2 hours and 10 minutes of a film starring Sean Connery?
Well,
could you recommend one?
Do.
Abby, you are in luck because
they made an Amazon series of this recently.
Really?
We did not watch that. We watched the 1986 movie, The Name of the Rose. We are going back to back old Connery. Based on recording, since we did Moonraker right before this, we're also going back to back Michael Lonsdale, which is very cool. It's
Drax
Lonsdale.
is back, baby.
That's right. And we're having a great time. We're watching a 2-hour, 20-minute movie about monks based on an Umberto Eco novel. Now, I love Umberto Eco, and I love Umberto Eco novels. One thing that I would not do to my worst enemy, in order to curse them with madness, the likes of which the world has never seen, would be ask them to adapt it into a screenplay. Right?
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Umberto Eco very often very mystical, often very interested in like conspiracy and secret knowledge and layers of meaning, and like in particular in the novel that this is based off, The Name of the Rose, labyrinths, all of which adapt so fucking well to 24 frames per second of film stock.
And also just the idea of doing a postmodern detective novel where, like, spoilers, like, there isn't a mystery. Like, it's just...
Yeah, it is
just
pretty
a bunch
heavy-handed.
of bullshit. Like,
It's just a series of things happen, really.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of scenes that just feel like they arrived from a different movie and they didn't really have anything to do with the plot ongoing or to be referred back
like
to.
my brain is still poisoned by Rising Sun, right? So we set out our stage in Tuscany, in northern Italy, in 1327. And as soon as this was laid out for me, knowing that Sean Connery was going to be in this movie, my brain immediately went, in Italy, the senpai-kohai relationship is assumed whenever an older and a younger monk work together. Because we got a senpai, a master, and a novice, a kohai. We got William of Baskerville.
Sean, a twink.
Yeah, William of Baskerville, a Franciscan friar, Sean Connery, who has been assigned a submissive and breedable boy wife. He has Adzo of Melk, a novice played by an extremely young Christian Slater.
Oh, I didn't even realize that was
if you like Christian Slater saying the word master in a faintly questioning intonation, you are gonna fucking jerk yourself raw to this movie.
I don't appreciate you calling me out quite that hard, but that's fine. Thank you.
So we're in 14th century Italy, and we go to this like Monty Python ass abbey. And Drax, the villain from Moonraker, is there. You'll remember him from our episode on Moonraker. He's the guy who's Peter Dinklage if you click the top right-hand corner and drag him up. So he's just like same size as everyone else.
He is the abbot of this monastery.
And Sean Connery is Sherlock Holmes brackets monk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes brackets monk has nominally been invited to this monastery along with a bunch of other important people in the church who will follow on later.
Having successfully obliterated the planet's supply of perfect 10 out of 10 dime piece himbos in space, unfortunately Drax has had to refer back to the young stock version of a himbo, which is of course a twink, and the most fucked up looking people you've ever seen in your goddamn life.
That's right. The cast of American Horror Story Freak Show occupy this monastery.
Fucking Nosferatu.
It's wild how out of their way they go to make everyone look creepy as hell. It's like there are the twinks. You've got the twinks who are all hot, and there's three twinks. Several. Three twinks is called a KY. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something here. I don't.
It's called a polycule.
Yeah, exactly. If you're lucky. And then everyone else. But then there's like Sean Connery, who we've got in the daddy role.
Yeah.
Right?
So Sean Connery arrives for like
Dark
this.
Souls.
Yeah, for this theological conference in Yarnum, basically.
Yeah.
And what is like quite a deep and rich and nuanced novel about exactly like the relationship of the church to truth and like seeking after truth is kind of reduced to having a severe axe to grind against the one true holy Roman Apostolic Catholic Church, which is fine. I'm all in favor of that, but the way in which they go about it is like a series of heavy-handed things about how, man, these guys are repulsive. So every other monk in this place, besides Sean Connery, twinks, and Hugo Drax, is like in some way physically deformed or like abnormal or like weirdly effeminate, which is interesting. They've got like fucked up tonsures, they've got hunchbacks, they've got like facial deformities, stuff like that. And from this, you were meant to go, man, this is kind of like, don't know if I like these guys. This feels like a kind of a hostile, threatening environment.
Coming from a small West Country town on the southwest coast of England, I actually felt right at home.
Yeah, these guys all look very normal. But anyway, Connery rocks up to this abbey with his twink, and they say, "Oh, welcome." And Connery, we get a little character establishing moment where the twink needs to use the toilet, and Connery has done Sherlock Holmes magic to deduce where it is. But then Drax, I'm gonna call him fucking Drax, says that everyone's a bit kind of rattled at the moment because one of their young twink femboy monks was found dead underneath a window that does not open below a roof onto which there is no access. So it's like,
it's a locked window mystery.
There's been a murder. And unless Connery can solve it with his apparent like brain god logic powers, Drax might have to summon the Inquisition, which I'm guessing is bad because they're called the Inquisition.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because the way that they are kind of wielding the Inquisition in this is really interesting to me. And the Inquisition does exist in the 14th century. Like the Inquisition pretty much came into being expressly to bully the Cathars. And so it was kind of brought out in the 12th century because they were like, it seems that these people
guys are being too cool. Women priests?
Yeah.
Sounds like these guys are fucking. Someone better go put a stop to that, essentially. So, the
claiming that you can become free of earthly sin? Insane.
No.
Absolutely not.
No, you fool.
And so the Inquisition does exist at this juncture. It's also partially brought in when the Knights Templar get taken down, but it wasn't really the Inquisition that did that specifically. That was the King of France that pulled that one. He invites the Inquisition in. And a lot of the time, I have nothing good to say about the Inquisition. Don't get me wrong. But a lot of the way that we relate to the Inquisition is it's like the church cops and they're hiding under your bed and they're going to come and torture everyone. But usually the way that it works is that a crown somewhere summons the church cops. So, in the case of, the Spanish Inquisition, for example, Ferdinand and Isabella were like, oh, please come church cop everyone who isn't actually Christian now that we've done the Reconquista.
Kind of shit you do when you call yourself His Most Catholic Majesty.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, it's a very, the way the Inquisition is in this movie is, Catholic FBI, right?
Yeah.
They show up in the Windbreakers with Inquisition on the back and they take all of the files out of the fucking monastery.
They did my boy F. Murray Abraham so wrong by making him be in the Inquisition. I was all like, oh yeah, homeboy's in this, where's he at? And then I was like, no, not Bernardo Gui. Shakes fist at Sky. They got an actual guy in. They sure did look up a name.
They meet this Nosferatu looking motherfucker.
The twink femboy monk has been killed. Adelmo of Otranto. And he is an illuminator. And William has heard of him because he's renowned for his irreverent marginalia.
He does amazing fan art. He's so good.
He does bits in the side, which was a
he's always
common
posting
thing.
it in the subreddit.
Which
I'm assuming it's just dicks all day long. That's what's up.
Yeah, that's what it tended to
That's
be.
what's up.
We see it later on. We see some of his furry fan art later on. But Sean Connery meets Nosferatu. Alice, please tell me you got the drop of this guy describing the dead monk.
Oh my god, yes.
There was something feminine, something diabolical about the young one who died. He had the eyes of a girl.
Yeah, and do you also have the one of the same guy saying Among Us?
Fuck, I don't. Shit. Okay. This is this is the story of how a monastery tears itself apart in the quest for Twink Bussy. Which
this description was so unhinged that I was having a really hard time finding The Name of the Rose brackets 1986 to watch in the United Kingdom when cannot pay to watch this movie apparently.
No.
And so I was like, okay, screw it. I found a version en español and I speak Spanish, so that's fine. And I got to that description and I was like, My Spanish is really rusty. I must be so wrong about this. Like, this cannot be what actually got said.
Femboyismo.
So I went and then like eventually like I squirrel around for another hour, finally find an English version, get there, and I'm like, no,
No, he said that
no,
shit.
Spanish is fine.
He meets Nosferatu, who simply tells him that him bussy got me acting unwise.
So the thing is, this character is called Ubertino, and he's introduced. They enter this chapel, and he's just lying on the fucking ground.
Yeah, being devotional. Yeah, listen, in the Middle Ages, much as now, you could get away with any shit you wanted to do, so long as you sold it hard enough as like, I am doing this devotionally.
Yeah, I mean that bit was like, that's actually believable. I'm like, yeah, sure, Franciscan on the ground, why not?
He talks about how fucking hot a statue of the Virgin Mary is. He talks about the statue's breasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have like examples of like nuns trying to like climb crucifixes that are suspended in the air and kind of like dry hump them in like a real chill way that is just religious and pure. You know, like
having an
people
ecstasy of Saint Teresa moment, you know?
You know? Yeah. So like I'm like, sure.
His line is, when the female, by nature so perverse, becomes sublime by holiness, then she can be the noblest vehicle of grace. Which, great line. And also, listeners, I cannot stress enough how much everybody in this film, A, talks using lines like that, and B, talks in the kind of like,
yeah.
It is Dark Souls
all
shit.
Of it,
yeah.
like,
this fucking movie is an hour and a half long, and it could have been about half that if any of these cunts had spoken like they had somewhere to be.
yeah.
They're just like, every single line is exactly as you say, delivered in that sort of Dark Souls. If you were trying to like transliterate it, there would be a lot of ellipses.
Yeah, and it's like, again, the point of this movie is a guy hits you over the back of the head with a mallet with "the church is misogynist" on it. And it's like, I'm not going to argue the truth of that because obviously, but it's also not the entire truth because that's all, like, there were women in the... never mind. Anyway.
I'm going to have things to say about that reading at the end. But, all right.
I mean, the other thing that happens within this, you know, you've got everyone either talking like a Dark Souls character, or if you are one of the peasantry, you are an NPC that just speaks in kind of like grunts and howls. It's just like,
there's something that I have for this, which is this movie treats different religious orders as RPG classes. So Franciscans are Jedi because they're nice and they like kind of like to talk in riddles, but also they're nice. The like Dominicans are evil because Bernardo is a Dominican. They have the like black and white habit and they're very intense. And then Benedictines are like perverse and depraved and like love that him bussy. And then if you're not in any of those categories, if you're just like a normal peasant, you're like an orc. You know, you don't have the capacity for like language or anything.
But anyway, Nosferatu is like, oh shit, like everyone's worried by this murder because they're like, oh, the devil stalks the abbey. Connery doesn't believe in the devil because he's a logic brains genius. So he goes and does some Sherlock Holmes shit at the crime scene, and he's like, clearly this femboy jumped off the tower, he committed suicide. And he actually has the line elementary just to fucking hammer it in.
I wrote that in full caps in my notes.
While they are looking and while he's doing the elementary shit, we see the monastery open a gate to like roll their food scraps down the hill into a peasant settlement that then can like pick at them.
These
and
fucking like Monty Python peasants like, some lovely filth down here. It really is. Just
they get in a fist fight over the filth, and Adso of Milk sees a beautiful, filthy young woman. And is like immediately attracted to her. She is filthy. She's like,
she just remains filthy. The entire like the major thing about
is
her.
In her next scene.
They took the time on that one, hey? Yeah, weird decisions all around, really. Also, Abby, Alice, did you get a clip of the abbot in this next scene saying "Among Us"?
I did not get a clip of the abbot in this next scene saying "Among Us." We will have to go back, find that. Send that to Nate and have Nate edit that in at a later time.
Oh, he said before he hates doing that.
Oh, God bless him.
Among Us.
Among Us.
Yeah, so William is like, yeah, no, it's a suicide. Don't worry about it. The devil is not in the monastery. And this kind of allays everybody's fears for a second. And they go to, I guess, matins. And then in the middle of this, some monks run in and grab the abbot because there's been a murder. Like, again. There's 2 fucking legs sticking out of a big vat of blood.
Yeah, blood fat.
The vat of blood was supposed to be there.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I had been wondering what was going on and why there was this long gratuitous pig slaughtering scene. Where I was like, this is all a bit much for me.
There was one extremely obvious reason, which is that so it can cut from somebody mentions the Inquisition and then it cuts to them cutting a pig open and a guy getting a face full of blood. And you're just like, subtlety.
Yeah.
So they pull this guy out of the vat of pig's blood, and it's Venantius, who is another twink.
He was a friend of the dead femboy.
The one black guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was
Instantly.
stoked at least they had a black guy in there. I was like, well, at least we have some accuracy. Fantastic. Love to see it. Although it's extremely like the Star Trek thing where you send the black guy on the mission and he gets iced immediately.
Oh,
Yeah, he's like a red shirt. Yeah. He's a Greek translator, and he's Adelmo's friend, right? And they also note that he's got like this black stain on his finger and on his tongue. But before they can get to any conclusions from that, this old ass Umbertino, this old ass Nosferatu looking motherfucker goes, prophecy. This is the fucking second seal. Because there's blood. It's like the Book of Revelation. There's some kind of like apocalyptic prophecy happening here, and therefore we must all, pray repentance and not think about this too hard. It's fine.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And you can interrupt me if I'm wrong here. I wrote, this happens about once every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really also hilarious to me because the way that it's presented in this movie is that either we're going to summon the Inquisition because there's murders happening, or we'll just go along with this like Antichrist prophecy. The last days is happening. The devil is walking among us, which will apparently not incur the wrath of the church. No. And I'm here to tell you, as someone who like specializes in Antichrist prophecy in the 14th century, that's the thing where the church shows up and is like, excuse me?
That's when the church cops would be like,
yeah, because the thing that happens if you're saying that Antichrist is going to show up and you start trying to do prophecy when Antichrist doesn't show up, it makes the church look really fucking stupid.
Ah, of course.
So they hate that. And it's like, you've got to get your language exactly right. And there are ways of distinguishing about it. We delineate between what we call Antichrist language and Antichrist accusations. So Antichrist language would be saying, oh, well, these murders are kind of symptomatic of a generalized decline in society. And aren't we all sliding towards revelation? That would be fine.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be okay to say these things are happening because Antichrist is here now.
Yeah.
And this is a result of that.
Like he's coming on Tuesday, like, because that makes you look like a tool.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So what we are being sold here as like the way out of this that would be acceptable is actually the reason the Inquisitors would show up ordinarily. They'd be like, none of this, absolutely not. So
speaking of looking like a tool, it's time for it's time for Ron Perlman.
Guy alert.
Yes.
New type of guy discovered.
Ron Perlman, Ron Perlman, who is wearing a shit ton of like facial prostheses. It has a hunchback and talks like this.
La morte suprenos.
Dark Souls, all the time.
Ron Perlman having a great time.
Yeah.
Time of
Having a great
his
time.
life.
Fantastic actor.
Speaking in tongues, switching between like French and Italian and Latin and Spanish, and also saying this weird phrase, penitentiagite, which Adzo of Milk is like, what that mean?
So a couple of notes about Ron Perlman's character, Salvatore. the thing about this movie is that no one at the time of it being produced thought it was going to do well.
No.
Sean Connery's career was at such a low point that when the Columbia Pictures found out that the director had cast Sean Connery in this movie, they refused to finance it because my man was in a bad spot. And furthermore, in order to get funding for this movie, the director had purposely not written a lot of the movie's dialogue because it all sounds like Dark Souls, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So when they started filming, he hadn't actually written any lines for Perlman to say. But Ron Perlman, because he's a guy with a brain,
because the Don improv
heard that this guy, not even improv, he prepped for it. He found there's a line that says that character is speaking 6 languages at once, right? Latin, Italian, German, English, French. Perlman got copies of the original book in each of those languages and composed sentences by combining words from his lines in the book in each of those languages.
Fuck. He's such a good actor.
See,
What a
that's
G.
that's when you
He's
go
so
above
cool.
and beyond, and even if the film is shit, you get hired again because that's what people like.
Absolutely. So he really sells this, like, sort of like hunchback who is like communicating in, as William says, all languages and none. And William tells Adzo that this phrase that he heard him use, penitentiagite, was the battle cry of a heretic sect called the Dulcinians, who were too Antifa. They were too like they were like
too
the
based.
yeah, they were too based. They were too based. They were the liberal idea of what Antifa are. They're like the church. Christ requires a vow of poverty. Therefore, the church should be poor. Therefore, we should butcher everybody who has too much money.
They were
Which
teaching critical race theory. They
sounds pretty fucking good to me, as far as I'm concerned.
How accurate is that as a description?
I mean, I absolutely love this made-up thing. I think it was base as hell. I would love to read more of their works. This would be a group I specialized in if they were about the shop. I mean, the closest thing that we see to this is, in peasants' rebellions and stuff that will happen in the later 14th century, like the Jacquerie really get good. They kill some noble people, which is extremely good, in my opinion, although they all get killed for that. So it's an interesting one because it's not the sort of thing that we would usually see in theology at the time. There are some groups of people. So, for example, very notably, like the Chelchitsky portion of the Hussites, who are based out of Tabor, they go in for this stuff. They go really hard commie. They go like pretty hardcore commie. Like vaguely, there are some that get a little bit of Adamite and a little bit like free love at times, but you don't often see. You do see, like, from peasant movements and things like that, there'll be huge calls for the abolition of wealth. And there's a constant and grinding discussion about the church's wealth that goes on over and over again, notably with the Franciscans. And then it crops up again in the 14th century with actually a bunch of people saying, I think you'll find the Franciscans are very wealthy now. What are we going to do about this? So that's always a topic of discussion.
My question really is, like, we see Salvatore, and he has also a protector, another monk, whose name is Remigio, who like looks after him. He's the cellarer. He's he looks after the wines, but he looks after Salvatore too. To what extent is this like at all plausible that you can like sort of recant your heresy and like while keeping it secret, just sort of blend in as a monk?
I mean, it is in theory possible, because if you were a heretic and you got away and nobody knows, you could theoretically become a monk. Now, having said that, generally, to join a monastery, you can't just join a monastery, right? Like all the peasants rolling around in the dirt outside the monastery of this, they can't just say, you know what, actually, it seems like you've got like 3 meals and a bed in there. Can I come too? That's not how it works in general. And in general, when you join a monastery, you have to come with some kind of gift, be that money or some land that will come with you. It's especially true of what we call oblates, so all the twinks. If you come in and basically get pledged at 10 or something like that, oftentimes your family will say, okay, well, here's enough money or land or something that's going to kind of make up for the fact that they can't work like an adult yet. So it basically means that most people who are in monasteries and nunneries, they come from wealthier backgrounds. So it would be possible even in later life to then join. And it's a popular way of retiring when you're rich too. If you're really fucking sick of your husband or wife, you'll both retire to a monastery and nunnery respectively. And then just, you don't have to deal with each other.
That's not just one of them. It's both being like, well, see you later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's really common. They'll just be like, no, we're done. We're good. And then, you could theoretically join in middle age. So the trouble is your man here is going to have to come up with the money to get into the monastery and also bring his pet hunchback with him or whatever.
Right.
So it would be possible, but where they're kind of getting the money for that and,
Dead bishops.
it would... Yeah. So, I mean, maybe they just took it all from the bishop they killed, in which case that makes sense. But it's this sort of posits that anyone can just become a monk at any time. And that's really not the case. I mean, in theory, yeah, it's possible. But in practice, it's a rich people thing. And there are set times in life that you ordinarily become one. So,
So William ruthlessly exploits that information that you are a heretic, I can denounce you and, have you tortured to death. So therefore, if you don't give me what I want to know, I'll do that. And so what he learns from this is that Adelmo and Venantius, both of our dead twinks, had been seen by Salvatore talking in the graveyard in some apparent distress. He files that one away. But meanwhile,
I think we skipped ahead. We skipped ahead here because Connery does some Sherlock Holmes brain genius shit at the crime scene with the pig blood, and he follows the footprints back to the library.
Oh yeah,
and he sees what the femboy was working on, and he's been drawing fucking furry shit. And Connery has an argument with a monk about laughter and furry shit.
So the entire time we're in that library, it's worth mentioning the presence of a guy. There is Brother
Berenger.
Who is this? He's in perfectly white makeup. He's bald. He's a little on the larger side. And he's just scuttling around constantly.
Long nails, very long nails.
Oh, these nails though, homeboy.
Extremely he's got a pallor. William calls him moon-faced. Also,
again, no one in this film fucking looks normal.
No one speaks normal.
He especially looks abnormal, and a large part of the abnormality is effeminacy specifically, which is very interesting, especially for a movie, one of whose critiques of the church is, wow, you heard about this misogyny? Is to then be yeah, but also, though.
But also, isn't that it's gross when dudes do it, though? Yes. I mean, let's be real. There's a bit where there's a mouse gets loose in the scriptorium, and Brother Berenger jumps up on a stool and screams. And I suspect that you are meant to be repulsed. Interesting. So anyway,
Connery notices that a lot of the books are missing as well.
Yeah, and specifically, Brother Berenger blocks him from seeing what Venantius was working on. He's like, oh, can I take a look at his desk? And Brother Berenger's like, nope.
Rips right in there in front of him.
They come back at night, though, and Connery finds a secret message written in lemon juice from the friend of the femboy, which appears to be directions to something.
But first,
you get lemon juice?
Adzo, young Christian Slater, is about to risk it all for his first, last, and only taste of she-her pussy.
Yeah. So whilst Connery is talking to Ron Perlman, the gibbering hunchback, about the femboy and his mate were in distress and the whatever, the filthy girl from before comes in. It's not clear where she comes from or why she's there. But she
sneaks in through the sluice gate to try and either steal food or fuck monks for food.
Yeah. But she is the horniest that anyone has ever been.
That's true.
She's basically feral, and she jumps Christian Slater and takes his innocence.
Yeah, like she just fucking goes for like this actress. Just so as much as Ron Perlman is committing to being a gibbering hunchback, which is 120%, this girl is committing to being horny.
She's horny.
Yeah.
She is basically unable to speak.
Because she's an NPC.
She's so horny.
Yeah, what she lacks in any intelligible language skills, she makes up for in little moans and just going straight for the D.
Yeah.
Right
So
to the D.
So I got a couple of points about this scene as well, but I'm going to put on my big nonce hat because I have detected some noncery occurring.
Beep, beep, beep.
First of all,
beep,
Christian
beep,
Slater
beep.
in this scene is 15 years old.
Yep.
Second of all,
The
Valentina
actor isn't, but
Vargas.
the character is, right?
No, the actor is.
Really? Oh, okay.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
15 years old. Just read it. The second thing, the actress who plays the dirty peasant girl, Valentina Vargas, was cast because Slater did script reads with 3 potential women, and he was so just like out of character, completely smitten with this girl that she was selected above the others. Third point, and here's where it gets noncier. Jean-Jacques Anna, the director, didn't give Valentina directions. He let her improvise the scene, but he didn't tell Christian what she would be doing so as to, and I'm quoting directly here, elicit a more authentic performance from him.
Beep,
So-
beep, beep.
So you're telling me that we just saw a 15-year-old boy get his head shoved just right into they titties.
Yeah.
Just right up in there, and everyone is like, keep rolling, this is great.
Also seeing some
Yeah.
15-year-old ass as well,
This
which
is
not feeling
nonce
comfortable
shit.
about.
Damn, well, fuck, I suppose.
I
I'm
was
afraid we're going to have
already
to all
uncomfortable.
report ourselves to the nonce detectors.
I was already uncomfortable. I was like, this scene is gratuitous. I really didn't need this much of like him shagging her.
On like a
Yeah.
pure BBFC, like film classification level, this is up there with fucking Sallow. But
Right?
like the actual artistic merit, there's a gulf there, right?
Yeah.
This is the second Old Man Connery film in a row where we've just had like
With a lot of
gratuitous
ass.
horn.
Yeah.
Because in
Well,
the
I think
last
that
one,
might just
in
be
Rising
just
Sun,
the
there was this
80s.
like explicit pussy shot. Yeah, it might just be the 80s, yeah.
They love to do this kind of shit. We saw this in Man from Hong Kong as well, where there was just straight up titties on screen
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
a You movie.
Well, see, I love the titties, but
Yeah.
Adzo has betrayed his vow of chastity, which is
In real life.
should be a big deal, right? It's 3 rules, dude. There's 3 of them. And like, okay, we kind of accept that like at different points and at different times for different monks, the vow of chastity has been a joke. And that's one of the things that this movie gets into. But it's still a big deal for Adzo because he's like, he's committed to it. And
He's young and idealistic.
he's just been jumped by this feral NPC girl.
I kind of love the entire thing with her though, because it's actually like such the way that a medieval monk would write about women. It's actually kind of perfect. Like they'd be like, oh yeah, they are just mad horny. You just get in a room with them. They're putting their cloak up, head straight in the titties, sex everywhere. You just can't put a stop to them. They're essentially like feral, unthinking, completely illogical and mad horny, right? It is what especially monks who see themselves as being, above peasants because of the class they are drawn from. The way that they would relate to women of lower status would be exactly this. So it's kind of hilarious because they're trying to be like, church bad. The church is bad because of the way that it thinks about women. On the other hand, mad, horny, feral peasant girls definitely exist, and that's real, but it's good.
They're like,
It's
that's
actually based.
they're like, the church are correct, but you shouldn't say it.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much.
But he's absolutely smitten by the pussy, and he's
fully.
like,
She's
he's
20.
like,
It got him acting unwise.
Acted
and like,
hella unwise.
Connery senpai, have you ever been in love with the pussy? And he's like, no.
No.
I've only been in love with Aristotle.
Yeah.
I mean, I
but,
love
like,
that. I loved that though.
I did appreciate the little bit where he's like, he asks Connery to like be his confessor, and Connery's like, well, why don't you just tell me first as a friend? Which I liked that, knowing
Yeah.
That
that
was
like
cute.
the seal of the confessional and the confession as a sacrament is like a distinct thing. I appreciated that. Anyway,
Mhm.
so Connery, I'm gonna keep calling him Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Breaks into
He doesn't play anything else.
no. He breaks into the scriptorium after dark to find this like note with some Greek characters and a hidden message written in invisible ink in lemon juice,
Mhm.
which he unveils, which is a zodiac code. It's got like the various signs of the zodiac, and it's going to unlock something. But creepy brother Berenger creeps his way in, and like I guess tries to hit Connery with a hammer and then steals the book and his glasses.
I don't think he tries to hit him. He just I think he just makes a noise.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He throws
just,
it
like,
across
hits
the
the
room
thing.
so that they go away from him because they're Metal Gear Solid NPCs. And then just nips in and whips that book right out.
Mm-hmm. So he has the book, and meanwhile we're getting these sort of competing narratives where William is like, no, it's not a prophecy, it's not an antichrist thing. Where Umbertino is like, no, revelation, next thing is going to be like water. There's going to be a guy found in some water.
Yeah.
And
So the long and short of it is, Connery explains everything to Drax, and he says, so the femboy furry artist wanted to read a forbidden book, and the effeminate keeper of the library was like, well, I will give you the book in exchange for sexual lewd acts, which they did, and then the femboy killed himself out of shame. His friend, who told him where the book was, he then read the book. And then died, ? So the keeper of the library moved his body into the pig's blood, and then the keeper of the library read the forbidden book, and then he also drowned in the bathtub. So Connery's like,
find him
it's a killer
drowned
book. It's
in
an
the
evil
bathtub.
book. You read the book and you die.
Yeah.
It's kind of like The Ring, but for a book.
Yeah, and there's
And like it's
femboys.
like is this happening for like mystical reasons, or is it happening for like INTJ stare reasons?
RE, Brother Berengar, trading access to a book for sexual favors from a twink. And you can directly cut this, Nate, if you don't want me to say it. But I have a comment here from one Nate Bethea. It says, my only name of the rose comment is critical support for Brother Berengar, who looks like he's never seen the sun, never left his gaming chair, and is blasting through twinks like a Sherman through Georgia. Which is the funniest collection of words I think I've ever read in my life. But you can take that out if you would rather it not go out.
I would want that on my headstone personally, but do you, Nate?
big headstone.
The fucking gaming chair thing is so
Yeah.
on point.
There's
dude.
such a way with
Jesus
words.
Christ. Nate, do you want to replace me on this? You're way funnier. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, he drowns in the bath, Brother Berenger does. And so this seems to vindicate Ubertino's like Antichrist thing, right? Like, because that's the third seal is like in water, and the next one is going to be
seal is unattractive gay men dying. The first two it's twinks, and
Yeah,
then
the
it's
first
like
two is
guys
attractive
where you're
gay
like,
men.
oh, I guess critical support, but
he like warns them that the next one is like scorpions, and William's like, yeah, okay, fine, but.
we're gonna find scorpions
So
in winter.
Connery tells all this to Drax, and Drax is like,
Yeah.
I already called the Inquisition. I just got off the phone. They're already on the way.
I'm gonna burn that parchment though with the like secret code on it. Just
Yeah, he's like, forget this. There's some more Monty Python shit. We're now halfway through the film, and the crime has been solved.
Yeah.
The Inquisition is coming in the person of a guy Sean Connery,
You're my old
Bernardo
nemesis.
Gui, your old adversary, an actual historical guy, Bernardus Guidonus,
That's right.
Bishop of Lodev and Papal Inquisitor. He is going to show up and he's going to sort it all out. But also, the other Franciscans are going to be there, and the papal delegates are going to be there. Some cardinals are going to be there for them to have this like scholastic debate,
Which we don't yet know the subject of.
No.
But meanwhile, Connery and his novice, they go into a secret labyrinth where all the books are being hidden, and then they briefly get lost, and then they don't.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's so interesting to me because, like, this whole there's only the two librarians and they're the only ones allowed at a library is just so incredibly against what monastery libraries were for and the entire point of monastery libraries. And the way I feel is like, so Sean Connery's character, when they get into the library, that's how I feel about medieval books. I'm just like, books! And I just start like having to flip out.
It's genuinely adorable how excited.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, my note was I get like this in libraries.
Yeah, and I feel that really deep down. But the entire point of monastic libraries was they did some incredible things in the medieval period. You know, like they're essentially the site of the Carolingian Renaissance. They're the reason why we have so many classical texts in Europe, actually, is because monks were so obsessed with Aristotle and jacketed about him all the time. Like, that's real. And they would copy these texts and share them around. And they were really all about moving texts around. So it's a weird one because, like, I get that they need it for this plot point furtherance, but ever having the idea that, like, any monks would have access to some scripts and then they wouldn't want to share them, like, it's so beyond the actual pale of believability. It just doesn't make any sense. So, I mean...
The thing is, this like monastery within the movie is meant to be like, it sees itself only as like a repository for texts, and so Brother Georgie, the like guy who argued with William in the scriptorium about laughter, is like
Venerable Georgie,
an old ass blind ass monk, is like the soul. The point of a library is to recapitulate knowledge, not to create it. And he is, in particular, especially vexed about the Franciscans' like tolerance for laughter and tolerance for humor. And they get into a sort of a little theological argument about this earlier, where Connery pulls up actually a slightly more obscure one, as Saint Maris. Being boiled alive rather than St. Lawrence, who would have been my first pick. But, you know, go off, King. Anyway.
Ron Perlman is doing witchcraft?
So, okay, we should probably flag, just because it's somewhat plot relevant, during that debate, Sean Connery flags up a book by Aristotle, which is about the benefits of comedy. And because this movie...
Aristotle's Second Poetics.
And because this movie is directly about finding out what a book is, it's that one. It's the one that he mentions by name and gets a response from the guy from.
Yeah, because it's believed to be lost.
Yeah. That's right.
And indeed it is now. It is currently lost. So then Ron Perlman is caught with the horny peasant girl and a black cockerel and a cat. And that's shit. The Inquisitor arrives and they're like, oh shit, like witchcraft. We're gonna burn the girl. So like having solved the crime and then like groped about for some sort of plot for 20 minutes. Now we're like, oh shit, like, the woman is in peril. Like, okay, fine. Thank God we rediscovered the plot of a film.
Just grabbing at threads like fuck.
Shit. Oh shit.
This was like very funny to me because again, you know, the concept of witches, not so much in the medieval period. Like, I mean, it starts getting bigger in the kind of very end of the 14th century and in the 15th century when you have the Malleus Maleficarum come out and things like that. But like trying to blame women for magic and going after women specifically for magic is a really early modern thing. It's
getting really in my Silvia Federici about this and being like, this is a way to attack women's like store of productive knowledge. Also, I'm a TERF now for some reason.
Yeah.
Weird lady.
getting really in Silver Federici's business, and then all her friends being like, what the fuck are you doing in our business? This is a single-sex business. Get out.
It's like also, again, one of these things where it would be more likely in these circumstances for them to go, yeah, the monk did it, because there's lots of problems with monks trying to do magic all the time. Because they've got access to books.
Spiritually dangerous knowledge. That's one bit that rings true for me, is like, that's like, to me, the sole, like, understandable reason for just like locking up a bunch of books in secret is, you know, these are much like the Vatican's secret archives, with older meaning of secret. But anyways, like, no, this is morally dangerous knowledge. It will like lead you to doubt if you are not careful.
There's definitely, you know, cases where you'll see back and forth, especially with texts about magic, where people will go, oh, well, should we keep these or not? Because, you know, you shouldn't be trying to do necromancy. Monks are constantly trying to summon the dead to have a chat with them. That's like what they do for fun. And then people will be like, well, yeah, you should get rid of them because necromancy is definitely bad. But then other people say, yeah, but it's like, it's knowledge, and surely it's something that you should know exists, but you shouldn't try to do it. And there'll be a lot of back and forth. Sometimes we'll see, you know, spells and things like that are scribbled out in pages, or like the whole thing's taken out and burnt. Sometimes we've got lots of it intact, but it would be more believable from a 14th century point of view. It's like, oh yeah, that weirdo monk that no one really likes was trying to do magic. Everyone would go, yeah.
So
okay.
both Salvatore
he's blowing
and
up on TikTok. He's hexing the moon. He's huge.
And both Salvatore and the feral girl are going to be burned at the stake. After having like confessions tortured from them.
It's such a fucking easy job that Bernardo Gui has, because he literally walks in and is like, the first thing he sees is, he goes, oh, it's witchcraft. All right, we're done. Solve the mystery, boys. Pack it up, burn them. Let's go.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll be in the car. Don't even worry.
Like the other Franciscans arrive, and they're all, again, they're Jedi, right? They're British and they're kind of pious and they're a little bit humorous, and they want the church to be poor.
Debate time, baby. Debate 1385.
The papal delegates arrive. It's like a bunch of cardinals, complete with the like
it's Vaush.
Complete with the broad
Vaush shoe.
Absolutely no subtlety of these like sort of corpulent, gout-ridden cardinals being pushed up a hill by a bunch of like filthy peasants.
Yeah, they all look like Corpus Colossus from Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, and we get quite a sort of
the bullet fire.
We get a kind of a deft parody of scholasticism from Umberto Eco, not so much from the movie, which is the subject of the debate. The ostensible subject is sort of unveiled with great pomp by this cardinal who's wearing like his galero the whole time, and it's like, did Christ or did Christ not own the clothes that he wore? Right, it's exactly the kind of thing that people make fun of scholastic philosophy for. Is literally like angels dancing on the head of a pin, that kind of thing.
Oh fuck! Someone's going to have started writing an email already, and I just want to be very clear. Not Corpus Colossus. That's the tiny guy in the thing. I meant the people eater. Just backspace the email that you're about to send to the Kill James Bond account.
It's fine. It's fine.
I got it. I'm sorry. That was on me.
No, but like the ostensible purpose of the debate is not the real purpose of the debate. The real purpose of the debate is the church entitled to its riches? Is it correct that essentially like that the Franciscans should be crushed for heresy for suggesting like the poverty of the church?
Yeah. So we are ostensibly having a debate, but actually it's about who is allowed to live. A tradition that Britain has carried on even into today.
Wait, are you saying that some of this might not be in good faith?
No.
But anyway, J.K. Rowling's there, and she's like, "Look, the Franciscans are opening the door like no movement ever before to bring in all these
and of
sexual
course,
predators."
Having this sort of like beautifully like wheels within wheels sort of counterbalancing thing about scholasticism and about poverty and about obedience. In the novel, this turns into a shouting match, and not like in a way that's interesting particularly. So like you see the cardinal sort of shouting about how Jesus owned a purse, for instance.
Femboy Jesus.
That's right.
Know.
That's
They're
right.
It's like, was it a purse or was it indeed some kind of, satchel That was more masculine in character. Who knows?
Luckily for William, the monastic coroner, medical
Mad
examiner,
scientist monk.
yeah, I think he's nominally a herbalist, but like mostly what he does in this movie is autopsies, which is great. Comes in to tell William that he's found the book that Brother Berengar took, which he stashed in his herbarium.
Lab.
Yes.
How the fuck did he have that book?
Well, he got it from Venantius's like desk, right? And like stole it then.
But no,
because it was like, left out the whole time.
But Berengar is the assistant librarian. He's shown in the movie putting the book back.
Don't worry about it.
It's fine.
They just ran out. He just
reached right into the plot hole, and it was there.
Like,
okay, so
right,
that's how it works.
That's right.
He finds the evil book, but then like an unseen assailant brains him with a sculpture.
Yeah, he is killed.
Strangely.
Let's see.
There's an Inquisition tribunal, and the Inquisitor he's putting on trial Ron Perlman, the gibbering hunchback, the horny peasant woman, and a third monk who was also part of the Antifa division.
Yeah, Remigio, who was protecting Salvatore.
Oh, right, okay. And my notes say everyone looks the same. It's hard to tell who's who. Because the thing is, when everyone in your movie looks like a freak, then like they all kind of blend into one. But
Gooey makes the abbot and also William complicit in his verdict, and we see established earlier that like to object to the verdict of the Inquisitor is death. Right? Because it means you yourself are guilty of heresy. I don't know if that's historical.
Not so much.
Good
but,
system.
In
any case, having tortured confessions out of them, Gui tries to get Remigio to also confess to the murders, which we know he didn't do. And there's this sort of actually quite well done scene where he's like, he tortures Remigio into like a full confession, and Remigio like has his sort of moment of bravery and martyrdom. And he's like, yes, I was a Dulcinite. All of you should be killed. I'd butcher all of you myself. But because but because he doesn't know anything about the murders, because he hasn't done any of them, he can't confess to them properly. So Gui has to like feed it to him. He's like, oh, why did you murder a monk? And he's like, I don't know. And so Gui has to be like, were you possessed by the devil? And Remigio, to his credit, like really gets into it. He starts like foaming at the mouth, and he was like, "I am the devil, and I'm gonna kill all of you," and it fucking rocks.
It was very good, in my opinion, and that's how kings go out, really.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now,
knowing that it would be futile to object, but moral anyway, and also having established that his major sin, his weakness is his intellectual pride. William is like, yeah, no, I don't think he did the murders because I'm right. He did all the other stuff, so I guess you have to burn him at the stake, but he didn't do the murders.
And Connery says there will be more deaths if you do
That's right. And so Gui is like, yeah, this guy's going back with me to Avignon, and the Pope's going to sort it out.
His pronunciation of Avignon is fantastic.
By which we are meant to understand that like he will be tortured and then killed.
Yeah, and while he's being like escorted out of the fucking the court, on his way past the rest of his order, Connery is just like angry, says, "I'm right," which I do.
Cool, it rocks.
That is me leaving any argument.
Yes,
on the way.
I'm right,
and he is immediately proved right in the next scene.
Yes, unfortunately.
They're still like under monastery arrest, which is like house arrest but a monastery. So they get to go to Vespers.
Very different to just being in a monastery generally. Right?
Yeah, where you're allowed to wander in and out all the time. So they're in Vespers, and then Brother Malakia, the guy with the horizontal tonsure, the guy with the fucked haircut.
He's the librarian. His
librarian collapses and dies in the middle of prayer. Again, with these strange black marks on his finger and on his tongue. and they use the confusion. Adzo and William use the confusion to escape, make their way back into the labyrinthine library.
Labyrinthine lavatory.
The labyrinthine laboratory.
That's how we're going to have to
Problem
start
is-
designing it for all these goddamn genders.
Am I right? Am I right?
Problem is, the men are invading the labyrinthine lavatory.
Harry Potter
And-
and the... No.
and we find out what the book is. It's Second Poetics. Aristotle writing about comedy.
Mhm.
A lost work. So dangerous that it had to be kept secret.
Sentence
And
1, this is what we
particularly-
call a little trolling.
Yeah. And
We do a little
particularly
trolling.
taken care of by venerable brother Georgie, the old ass dude who has such distaste for laughter, for merriment, that he has poisoned the pages of the book. So anyone who touches it and, for instance, licks their finger will be killed. And this is what's been causing the deaths, aside from the suicide, which was because of Berenger being a fucking nonce.
Mhm.
What I love about this is that for your man there, laughter or the concept of, frivolity is worse than murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And it's I'm sure that I will not be tortured in hell for all eternity for having murdered several of my brothers.
Have you ever ridden in the quiet carriage of a train with somebody you won't shut the fuck up? I think he's entirely right.
There you go.
So
Okay, I take it all back, actually.
yeah, so George is his motivation is that when you're laughing, you aren't afraid, but you have to be afraid of God at all times in order to be righteous and stuff like this. So obviously, what I have done is I've poisoned the book that teaches you how to laugh. Good day. This is the plot.
That's right.
But fortunately,
Says, I am the Joker.
William has got fucking gloves on, so he's not going to die of the poison. And what he does very carefully and very smartly is he tells Venerable George that he's wearing gloves,
Because
so
George is
won't
blind.
die. And George goes, "Oh shit!" grabs the book and leaves the room. And how the fuck are you?
How bad do you have to
outmaneuvered-
telegraph your moves that a blind man gets past you?
outmaneuvered by an old blind motherfucker? How did you get outrun by this fucking guy?
In a labyrinth!
Bond has been brought so low. That's all I can say,
So we just chase him
So-
through the labyrinth for a bit.
He knocks over a lamp. The labyrinth's burning down. The old blind monkey eats the poison pages and fucking dies. Meanwhile, outside, Ron Perlman is burned at the stake.
That sequence of him just stuffing pages into his mouth is how I
That
meet
was
him
quite
personally.
funny. In what manner?
I don't know.
Elucidate immediately.
I don't know what kind of implications I'm making at any time, including this.
Neither does this
fair.
fucking film, to be perfectly honest.
No,
But Ron
no.
Perlman
So
being burned at the
Ron
stake,
Perlman and Remigio are burned at the stake, but
the
as
peasants
the
are
fire,
like, you can't burn her. She's the horniest girl.
She's like, that's our horny girl. We
Yeah.
were using her.
the fire breaks out in the tower of the library, and the monks are like, "Oh shit, fuck."
I mean, real talk.
Immediately book it back to the monastery.
Yeah.
It's the only time I began feeling things. I was all like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it really
people
affects
in the
Sean Connery
town
as well.
Are like, they're burning that e-girl. We're going to simp for her. Can I help you, queen? Can I get you down off this stake? So the people of the Monty Python peasants rise up. And they save
Right,
the
rise
girl.
up.
And then we think that Connery is dead, and then he's not.
Yeah,
Bernardo Gui gets fucking owned.
Yeah.
yeah,
Incidentally.
he gets iced.
By the
the
Simps.
peasants ice Bernardo Gui by knocking his carriage off of a cliff, impaling him.
yeah, he lands on one of his spike wheels that they use for torches. Whatever, fine, sure.
It's a very subtle movie, is the thing.
Yeah, it's-
which is
If they had a
not
higher
at all
budget,
like
what they
the
would have
book.
done is had an Iron Maiden land and him just fall into it and it close. That's the sort of level of metaphor that we're working on here.
Yeah. And I mean, put it this way, Bernard Gui died at the age of 80 in his like palace. So
Yeah, as a bishop. So, please don't go around like thinking that this is real,
So, I mean, he must have survived. Must have survived that invasion.
yeah, he got better.
Just left.
Yeah.
I would simply
William is
get up.
alive. William has like survived. He has made his way out. And William and Adzo go to leave, and he's like presented with this choice of like, do I leave with William or do I leave with my feral ego girlfriend?
Yeah, makes the wrong fucking choice though, unfortunately.
Yeah, no doubt.
He chooses knowledge over she/her pussy. Is the
Yeah.
thing.
And you know
Terrible
what?
decision.
Fucking idiot.
You know what? I'd be feeling real jilted if I was the e-girl. I'd be like,
Yeah.
What's
What's a
all
girl
that
gotta
trouble? Prayed for a miracle.
You learn all the knowledge on Earth, and you become the wisest man. And all you learn from that is that actually you should have just gone with the eagle.
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
Well, what did we learn from watching The Name of the Rose, other than read the book after you read Eleanor's book?
I suppose that the major thing I learned is that people are way too willing to film noncery.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
We will now be turning in our hard drives and ourselves to the Inquisition.
Maybe that's why you can't watch it anywhere.
Oh fuck, maybe.
Hey,
Jesus.
shit! You know what? We've solved the mystery here.
I've just got a text message. I've been made a member of the House of Lords as a result of watching this film. So
Oh, well, there you go. Congratulations.
We've all been
Abby.
given
I'm the health
positions in government.
secretary now.
Nice, well done.
Shit.
So there's a couple of things we could say about this film. So like you probably heard
Have you ever
this.
considered that femininity is gross, especially in men?
Yeah, so there's that.
I'm always saying this.
There's a couple of like period correct descriptions of homosexuality that still like linger a bit. There's a bit where like they're autopsying Berengar, and Connery says he was left-handed, and the fucking medical examiner says brother Berenger was inverted in many ways. I'm pretty sure that like the discourse of inversion around sexuality is like a 20th century one.
Yeah,
But
that's definitely not.
Also says like flesh can be tempted towards nature or against nature. So like fucking the like feral peasant girl for ox hearts, that's towards nature. Blasting through twinks is against nature.
I'm always saying that.
Sure, especially because it makes you weird and gay and like I don't know, you have a giant moon face and nails are too long.
So listeners, you probably heard that at some points we kind of like struggled to recap the plot because there's just like a bunch of things that happen. And that's because the novel is like a deliberate postmodern subversion of detective novels. So rather than have like...
It's fucking great.
Yeah, rather than have the detective like slowly piece together like what has happened, it turns out that like the first death was a suicide. The second one was like an accident, as was the third. There's actually only one murder, which like on its own is quite a clever like thing to do with a detective film. Yes, cool. But at the same time, well, A, it doesn't make for a very good detective film, in my opinion. And B, it's trying to do this thing about like, like religion and censoring knowledge versus like the free-thinking brain logic genius detective Sean Connery. But like, those two goals don't go together because like the fact that it's just a series of random coincidences that he like fails to really stop completely undercuts all the stuff about like, you've got to be a free-thinking logic genius.
I mean, this is the thing, right? Let me put it this way. If you ever try to adapt Foucault's pendulum, I'm going to come to your house and kill you in real life. Do not fucking... do not. Also, instead of watching this, watch Benedetta, which is, like, defter with it. Or just fucking read the book. Fucking read the book. Read the book. Film was a mistake.
Great.
Why do I do a film podcast when I like books so much better than film?
Yeah, I really like the book, and I think it's good and fun and nice. And I mean, the trouble with the film is it kind of wants you to come down on the side of the real bad guy was the church. And
Yeah.
like the book doesn't really do that, to be
Yeah.
fair. So
Well, like part of the thing with the book is that like, and the movie just about gestures at this and then forgets it, right? Is that like Umbertino's like prophecy is like another method of like spiritual inquiry. It's another way of intending to arrive at the truth, and it's one that the novel doesn't take a position on whether it's better to do that or whether it's better to be a fucking like INTJ guy to be like, I'm going to do logic to this, because they arrive at like different like answers but for like laudable reasons. And it's not I don't know. They literally put that character in a cart and get rid of him partway through. And it's like, well, okay, but you're not going to say anything about what that means. No? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
yeah, that's Abby. You've just summed up my feeling about this entire film. Just
Yeah.
I kind of like it just because it's trash.
It was more fun to watch than Rising Sun. I'll say
Love
that
to
much.
see F.
disagree.
Murray Abraham work.
Really?
Yeah, I
The Senpai-Kohai relationship.
everyone in this film has really thick accents and mumbles their lines. The film is really dark. It's also very quiet. So like half the time I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like Rising Sun was like racist trash, but I understood the plot and I like could tell what was happening in the scenes. This it was almost like dreamlike at points. It just sort of drifted from scene to scene, and like based on this film, I would not bother reading the novel because I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
I don't
no.
want to do this.
You're completely. There were bits where, like Adso of Milk would just see like the faces in the wall moving,
Yeah,
and it wasn't used for
Yeah.
any actual like
Spooky
textual
Catholic
purpose.
horror.
It was just sort of like, wouldn't this be fucked up? Anyway,
yeah.
here's a hunchback. This is
Which
Ron
is
Perlman.
funny because
Thank you.
like
Ron Perlman, like-
again, I'm gonna keep doing the in the book thing, but that's a thing. That's a
Right.
Catholic thing. They're like weeping statues, like statues that seem to move on their own. These are like things that the church at times has recognized as miraculous, right? And it's about how those things can also be horrifying and like dreamlike and delusional sometimes. And like it's sort of it's an inquiry into like man's relationship to truth, and I really like the book. I really like the book, and you should read the book.
I'm sure
This
it's good.
is
but,
not a
like,
great adaptation.
The film promised me Detective Sean Connery investigating femboy murder, and instead he solves the femboy murder. 50 minutes in, there is no murder, and the rest of the film is just like, fuck. Do you like Ron Perlman? Do you like Hunchback? Do you like this horny girl? Do you want? It's a killer book, and it's not. And then there's an old blind man. And fuck it, we're done, and that's it.
Yeah, and also it made us all into nonces because we had to watch the scene of like young Christian Slater's ass going up and down. So
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
cool.
I got some closing thoughts here, which is
Okay.
director Jean-Jacques Arnaud admitted to casting the ugliest actors he could find because he wanted the characters to appear "quote unquote" real based on the men in his village where he lived. When he returned to his
Imagine
village,
if you went to school with that guy.
Wow.
when he returned to his village, some of the men asked him if he really considered them to be as ugly as the characters in this movie, to which he said, yes. So
Okay, wait. King shit though. Actually,
Like-
actually.
he does live in Europe. Hard to say.
Wow.
He's French. Nonce. It did. I mean, there was some nonce shit in there.
Yeah.
I don't think anything balanced that out for me.
No.
I didn't really have a great time.
Wait, it's funny because I watched this years ago, like years and years and years ago, and I think it was with a bunch of other medievalists, and we were getting quite drunk and being merry, and I had like these soft vibes towards it. I was like, oh, I like In the Name of the Rose. That's good. And then I watched it again, and I was like, oh, wow, I must have been really rather drunk because I'm not enjoying this. Or is my brain simply just broken now because I'm too online? Is this like, you know, it's one of these age-old questions: has it changed or have I? But
yeah, I feel
think
the
that
same
maybe
way.
also I was kind of confusing my great like of the book for the movie. I don't know, mate. I just I've lost a little something in the rewatching of it because now I don't like it.
Yeah,
Really sorry about that.
we gotta give Brother Berenger the Kronstein rosette though.
The other thing is,
Yeah, for sure.
in the final moments, it's revealed that the narrator that you're hearing intermittently was an older Adso of Melk, and his final line is that while this girl was his only earthly love, he never learned her name. And then
I never learned to read.
By any other name, hey, wouldn't it be nice? Anyway,
her name was Rose.
That's the moral.
That's the name of the rose.
Name of the rose.
No, it's supposed to be like Citizen Kane. It's like that's his Rosebud.
Mm-hmm.
This horny rose chick.
Cool. Well,
fantastic.
Well, yeah, it's that's rather what the movie's like. You're like, well.
That's the official Kill James Bond review.
Sorry, I want to read another line.
Sure is a movie.
Another line from the IMDb, just because it's so. Okay. This is just on its own one sentence in the trivia, and it just says hundreds of teenage boys were scouted before the production settled on Christian Slater. And I like that.
Senor Pasolini, please come to the white courtesy phone. Senor
President
Pier Paolo
Xi,
Pasolini,
send
please
the
come to the
missiles.
white courtesy phone.
I am ready.
Well, thanks very much for listening to this incriminating podcast.
That's right. If you want to buy a book about the Middle Ages and you wish that book had illustrations, then I would highly recommend that you buy Dr. Eleanor Janega's book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's actually about the Middle Ages and not Umberto Eco's idea of the Middle Ages. So
now, that is a book that I am actually looking forward to reading.
Thank you, Abby. Please, everybody, buy this book because I just had to watch this movie and ruin my life. Now I'm a nonce. So if you don't buy this book,
and it could happen to you.
Well,
and if you still don't have enough Eleanor Janega in your life, where can people find you? Where can people find your content?
You can find my blog at going-medieval.com. I've also got a Patreon like everybody else, which is Patreon/goingmedieval. My podcast is We're Not So Different, where I talk about some medieval bullshit every week. And then there I am on Twitter at Going Medieval,
As many of those links as I remember will be in the description. So just scroll on down.
It's so many. I'm down here in the content mines every day. I put on my hard hat, I grab my pickaxe, and I make some stupid bullshit that people live without.
Thank you for coming mining with us.
I might just forget to put them in, but my DMs are open. Just let me know.
I just want people to buy the book. That's all.
Oh my god.
So anyway, thank you for assembling.
Thank you for giving us your money and subscribing to our Patreon. We appreciate it a great deal. And we will be back with the next mainline James Bond episode for your eyes only.
Ooh.
Brother Thorne, Brother Caldwell Kelly. Let's get back to these breedable twinks.
Cannot stress enough that they are over 18.
All of these are of age. All of our submissive breedable twinks. Old enough to vote. Thank you for listening to another episode of Kill James Bond. Links to everything to do with Dr. Eleanor Janega will be in the description. Maybe. Let me know if I have forgotten to put those in. If you are listening to this on the free feed, then hello and welcome to the Banquet of Forgiveness, where for the month of July, both of our regularly scheduled bonus episodes will also be available for you, the unpaying and therefore more disgusting hogs. If, once this month is done, you find yourself horridly addicted to that sweet, sweet bonus content, you can head on over to patreon.com/killjamesbond. And thank you very much to our brothers from the £15 and above order. And those are George Rohack, Jack Holmes, Peyton McCullough, Sol, Amanda Rogda, Bobby Lagerstrom, Nikki, Kentucky Fried Commie, Field Commissar Jen, Jack Bushell, Amber DeGrazia, Larrykins, Tarp_0, Mothman, Timothy Pajorni, Jay Martindale, Pete Snorrison, Trip, Big Titty Goth Girl, Richard Drum, Josh Simmons, David Wickman-Ratner, Elizabeth Cox, Alfredo, Kinyu92, Ray O'Leal, Jonas Schwamberger, Zoe Shepard, James Natman, and Robbie Morgan. Your names are carved into my heart. Kill James Bond will return next week for Your Eyes Only with the wonderful Mia Mulder, and the week after for Cars 2. Cars 2. That's Cars 2, ladies and gentlemen, Cars 2. This has been Kill James Bond, starring Alice, Abigail, and Devon. Our producer, as always, is Nate Bethay. Our podcast art is by Maddie Lubchansky. Our website is by the wonderful Tom Allen. See ya.